Welcome to True Crime Tea and Tangents. I am your host, Bonnie Watkins.
I am your co-host, other host, equal partner host. I don't know.
We change it every week.
We do. Duca, and that lovely voice you might have heard at the beginning. I don't know. Bonnie might edit it out, but was our live audience. Actually, our companion.
I think we should call her our guest host.
Oh, our guest host. Oh, wow. I love it.
And that's our mom.
Our mom, the giver of life. Our mom
herself,
in the flesh.
So far, we'll just give her first name for. I didn't actually clear with her how anonymous she wants to be. So our guest host, Penny.
That sounds perfect.
We're so excited to have you here. We figure
I'm excited to be here.
It's a family, it's a family affair. So I don't know, this might be the start. We've got lots of siblings, so this could be the start of a fun little tradition.
Right? Yeah, that would be super fun. Super fun.
You're going to have some extra siblings visiting next week, too.
No, because they'll be gone by Monday. Yeah. Anyway, we digress, as we like to do. Bonnie, what warm beverage are you drinking?
So I am drinking hot milk. Because, really? So Shane, he's working nights this week. And so instead of doing a dinner together, we've been doing a lunch together.
Nice.
And today he made us lunch, and he did some venison steaks. And he did this dry rub on them that was delicious, but also one of the spiciest dry rubs that I potentially have had on a steak in a hot second. And I was like crying by the end. So
babe, it's so good.
I was getting ready to come and record, and I was like, I need a hot beverage, but I also need milk.
What a great solution.
And so I have hot milk that I've been sipping on to cool my tongue.
Hot milk I've been sipping on to cool my tongue. I love it.
Yeah.
Mom, what are you drinking?
I am drinking some delicious comfrey tea because I took a tumble and tweaked my shoulder. So we're working on some herbal remedies to help it heal faster.
Oh, good. I'm sorry you tweaked your shoulder, though.
Yeah, me too.
Life, man. This stuff's hard.
Yeah, you've had a rough go of it the last few days.
It's been interesting, yes,
an adventure. Mm-hmm. Also, just for our listeners, there's a touch of ginger and some Ojai honey in there. So,
it's quite yum.
That actually sounds really good.
Yeah,
it's no warm milk. Don't get me wrong, but
right. Well, this honey is from Hawaii, so it's pretty special.
You gave her the fancy honey.
Yeah, she's my mom. She gets the best. So I'm drinking a apple, cinnamon, orange peel, it has like a little rooibos in it, so kind of a caramel type of undertones in it, and it's pretty dang delicious.
That sounds incredible. I might need you to send me or bring some of that to the baby blessing at the end of the month.
All right, perfect.
So that I can try some of that stuff, because that sounds good.
So yummy.
It sounds like a perfect fall drink.
Yeah. Even though we're going into spring, it's still kind of chilly, you know?
Yeah, it's just a cooler weather drink.
Yeah. Anyway, very excited for it. And please excuse any little things you hear in the background. There are quite a few people here, and renovations.
I have a baby who's going to wake up at any given moment, so.
Okay, good. We are all on this adventure together.
We'll see.
Moving on then.
Yeah, come on in.
Before I start, I have to. We're gonna like break into tangents just a little bit early today. There is a show, especially so right now. I mean, for those of you who are only listening, which is everybody, because we haven't put this on YouTube.
Nor will we. My hair's like.
Nor will we. My sister and my mom are together, and I'm alone, all by myself in my little quadrant of the universe.
So you have kids with you, right?
Yeah, she's sleeping. So since you guys are together, there's a show that I thought you might enjoy that could combine some interests. I just found out about it.
Okay.
It's called A Taste of Home.
Okay.
Let me make sure that that's accurate, because that would be embarrassing. No Taste Like Home. That's what it's called. Okay. So it's on Hulu or Disney. There's only 6 episodes, but what it is it combines 2 things that I think both of you separately will love, which is food and family history.
What? That sounds awesome.
That does
Yeah.
sound
So
fun.
do you know did you ever watch the that TV show with the 5 gay guys that help people dress better?
Yes. Queer Eye for the Gay Guy.
Yes, Queer Eye for the Straight
Yep.
Guy. For the straight guy, I think.
Thank you. Because
Yeah.
they're already good. Yeah.
So the one who always did the food, Anthony,
Mm-hmm.
he is the host,
Uh-huh.
and there's 6 episodes. There's 6 celebrities. So like the first episode is Florence Pugh.
Oh, fun.
The second one is Aquafina, whose real name is Nora.
That makes perfect sense.
One of the episodes is James Marsden. So Mom, he's the cutie from X-Men, and from Enchanted. He's the prince from Enchanted. I love James Marsden. Anyway, but what he does is he researches their family history and like where they're from and their origins and like stories and stuff from their ancestors, and then he takes them there and he incorporates the food that their ancestors would have made or the food that's traditional to their culture, and he tells them like these stories that he's learned about their past and their family history, and like helps connect them to their family line, but with food.
Oh, that's amazing. We do a little bit of that ourselves. I mean, we have tidbits and peanut butter popcorn and Gold Rush brownies.
And that's the thing, because food is the great connector, right? Mm-hmm. But I love that he's doing this show that shows how important food is to a family and to connecting generations. Absolutely. And also he's doing this research into their history and their families, and he's finding out information that they never knew about their own family history and their origins. And so it's a really fun family history genealogy project, but also tying in like the great love of food that he has.
I love that. That sounds super fun.
Yeah. So there's 6 episodes. I've watched 5 of them. It's a great show. I really think both of you would like it.
Well, I think check it out. We'll check it out.
We'll check it out.
Are they still doing more of those, or was it just like
I don't know. They released all 6 at once, so I don't know if they're going to do like a new season next year or what the plan is. I just barely heard about it.
Maybe it was a test run to see how those 6 fly.
Yeah, I think it might have been.
So everybody we need to watch.
Yeah, so everybody who's listening, if you have any interest in food or family history or famous people, then go and watch it. At least watch one. Pick your favorite actor of the 6 and watch that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want it to do well because I really liked it. And I also thought you guys would really like it.
I think so. That sounds perfect. Yep.
Check that out.
So that was our little recommendations corner.
New thing.
Now we can move from happiness and food and family history into death.
Destruction?
Despair?
Sorrow. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, chaos.
That was good, Mom. All the D's. So the thing is, like, there are times that people kill, which is pretty much never a good call. But
that's fair. She can say.
As a general rule, I advise against murder. But you can like point to why they did it, like money or love or, revenge or accidents, right? Like, but sometimes you just have people that kill and it's just a senseless, like, no reason killing. And that's like today we know the who, we know the when, we know the where, but there is no real why. And it's frustrating.
Weird. That weirds me out.
Yeah.
Like a serial killer who just still goes ahead and kills with no particular reason.
Yeah, not even because they're like a sociopath serial killer.
Right.
Like
just like a single individual
single one-time incident, random. Victim is random. You just kill somebody.
That seems like the way to do it, really.
Generally, it would be the best way to not get caught.
Mm-hmm.
Although, as we learned with the Brian Kohberger murders up in Idaho, it is actually just at this point really hard with how much digital surveillance there is in the world to commit a crime and not get caught.
And there's 2 things. I think that, first of all, we don't really know how much we're being watched. And second of all, we're so used to being watched that it doesn't matter that we're being watched anymore.
Yeah, and that's like you can take steps to be like, oh, I'm leaving my phone at home, and that'll make it so they can't find me. But that's just not true.
Not true. Yeah.
They can find you.
That alone is somewhat disconcerting as a member of the older global surveillance community.
Yeah.
She likes anonymity.
I mean, there are pros and cons, right? Like, I don't love how much privacy we as a society have given up, and that is concerning. But on the plus side, it's very hard to commit murder and get away with it now.
Yay. I guess you win some, lose some. I guess.
As is true with most technology, I think.
Yeah. You win some, you lose some.
Pros and
So
cons.
today we are going to talk about Gary Bullock and the murder of Reverend Eric Freed.
The Reverend?
I know, he was a reverend. He was a really good guy.
That just increases the randomness in my mind. Why?
Yeah, so you've got Gary Bullock, who was born in 1970, in January of 1970, and he had like a pretty standard upbringing. Nothing that I could find that pointed to like neglect or a big sorrow or a big trauma. His parents did get divorced, but like that's not incredibly uncommon. He lived with his mom and she remarried, and that seemed to be a pretty standard household. There was nothing in his life growing up that would have led him to, kill somebody. But by the time that he made it to 2013, so he would have been 43, his life was just kind of spiraling nowhere. So he'd gotten into marijuana earlier on in his life, and he had a marijuana conviction. And so he was in federal prison in the early 2000s. And then he tried to kind of, I mean, this is a bummer for him. After he got out, he tried to like rehabilitate his life. He got qualified to become a truck driver, and he was trying to do that, but he had a back injury that made it so he couldn't sit for long periods of time. And so then that career kind of ended too. And he was just spiraling. At some point in this age of this, like in his 30s, he got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which a lot of people will turn to drugs to self-medicate instead of, like going through and getting medicine that might help them. It's expensive. A lot of times they don't know where to go, how to access it. And, drugs are also expensive, but easier to access.
Right. You don't have to first make an appointment with your doctor and then go find the pharmacist. And a lot of those drugs, too, that are for mental health, they shut down a lot of other systems. And I know that's the reason why I hear a lot of people say, well, my doctor prescribed this thing or that thing that could help with this, but then I won't be able to feel anything. Like I still want to love my kids and love my husband or wife. And anyway, it is tragic. That is tragic.
Yeah, it's so yeah. It is so sad. And like I don't ever think using drugs is a good idea. Obviously, it's a bad idea for lots of reasons. My heart really goes out to the people that do it because they're trying to self-medicate for schizophrenia, for bipolar disorder, and they are not sure how to get help otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for whatever reason, right, he started with marijuana. A lot of people refer to it as the gateway drug. At least a lot of people in my world, because I'm in a criminal prosecuting world. And for him it was. He started dabbling with cocaine in his 30s. And then in his 40s, he began using methamphetamine because he was bored with the cocaine. And he did a lot. He would do like a gram of meth a day, which you guys probably don't have a whole lot of concept of how much. That is a lot of meth for somebody to do every single day.
Well, we do have, like I said, there's other people in the house, and another person just heard it, and were like, dang.
Yeah, that's... Because meth is super light, Mom, right? It's a powder, right? And so like a gram of it is a sizable amount. And also, I'm not sure how he was affording this because he didn't have steady work.
Well, maybe he was dealing?
He could have been. I didn't have any information about that. He might have been doing some odd jobs around. He lived in California. The story takes place in California. Yeah. There's a lot of day labor in California.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. He did get arrested in April of 2013. And as part of his plea agreement, he had to do a residential treatment center and go to that. So he did that. And he stayed sober for about 6 months, but then he ended up relapsing later that same year.
Yeah. Oof.
And for him, probably in part because, he was bipolar, he told... there's something you do called a pre-sentencing investigation report after you get sentenced. He told his pre-sentence investigator that when he used methamphetamine, he would hear voices.
Oh, see, and that's the reason why I wouldn't want to use a drug that I wouldn't want to hear voices.
Nope.
I don't want to hear voices.
He also it wouldn't be, it was not atypical for him to go 2 or 3 days without sleeping when he was on methamphetamine as well, which it is a high energy drug.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So.
Well, I guess if he was bored with the coke, this is going to be a lot more exciting.
Yeah. Cocaine, I mean, as bad as it sounds to say, is a relatively harmless drug compared to like heroin or meth.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Marijuana, cocaine.
I mean,
heroin,
they
meth.
used to put cocaine in Coca-Cola, right? Like,
Yes, they did.
it was, as far as drugs go, kind of a low-key one. People did it in the 80s, like all the time, and they like went on to live perfectly normal lives, and that is not what meth does to you. So.
No. Yeah.
So we are New Year's Eve 2013, heading into New Year's Day 2014. So it's actually so sad. So just a couple of hours before he ended up killing Reverend Freed, Gary actually was in police custody. He had been arrested on New Year's Eve for public intoxication. And they took him to jail because he was acting all weird and erratic. And then he got moved to a hospital because he was acting like just super kind of crazy. The deputies had to physically restrain him at the hospital. And then he ended up being booked into a jail at about 4:30 p.m. New Year's Eve. And he was released because it was just a misdemeanor. Public intoxication is just a misdemeanor. He was released at 12:43 a.m. on January 1st. The only reason I can think of, because they could have held him, right, until he'd like slept it off or overnight. The only reason I can think of that, or the best reason that they might have released him, is because New Year's Eve is a crazy time. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of people committing crimes and being drunk and being disorderly. Yep. And so I'm willing to bet that they were like, hey, you've slept it off enough. We need the space. You got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
So about 2 hours later, police got a call about a suspicious person at St. Bernard's Church in Eureka, California. And they responded and they found Gary there, but didn't immediately take him into custody because they couldn't, like he wasn't acting intoxicated. He wasn't acting erratic anymore. They didn't know that he had previously been, on a hold just earlier that night in a different location. So they just referred him to a shelter and said, hey, like it's 4:30 or 2:30 in the morning. You should go home, go to a shelter, like go somewhere to kind of sleep this off.
Okay, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Is this like he was in the same county that he was released from, right?
Same county, but different town. Okay.
And if he was picked up by the town police, they wouldn't maybe know the county information?
Yeah. So, I mean, because it wouldn't, and I'm not sure about in California, like in Idaho, the county and the city and the state, like their systems all talk to each other, but it takes a little while.
Right.
Right. Like, and the thing is, on New Year's Eve too, you're not going to be writing up your reports like as things are happening, right? You're probably going to be writing them up later. So it could be that they had written up the report or whatever, and it just hadn't gone through all of the systems.
Right.
Or it could be that they hadn't done it yet because they would do it at like end of shift. That's when you typically do all the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
But it was same county, but I don't think he was picked up by the county. There was 2 different police departments responding to these incidents.
Yeah. Okay.
So they told him to leave, go home, go to a shelter, go somewhere, but they didn't follow through to make sure he did. A little while later, a guard that patrolled St. Bernard's saw somebody that matched his description and was like, hey, you need to go, you need to leave, but also did not, as far as we can tell, follow through with making him get off the property.
Okay.
But at about 9 a.m. on New Year's Day, church staff came in to St. Bernard's and found the body of Reverend Eric Freed and called the police. Police responded. One of the parishioners, who was a doctor, happened to come in for church services, and they saw that they determined that the Reverend had died, had been murdered. So the prosecutors, right? This was not a case where it took them a long time to find out who did it. They saw security footage, there was forensic evidence, and there was witness testimony, all that showed that Gary had been stalking around the church rectory for several hours before breaking into the house through a downstairs window, because the Reverend Freed would sleep. There was a little house attached to the church grounds, and that's where he stayed. This is going to be, I don't know, Mom, you might want to plug yours. This is really sad. So Reverend Freed, he wasn't just like shot once, like, bam, you're dead. He was beaten. He was choked to death by a wooden stake and a rusted pipe, and broken glass had been forced down his throat.
What? Okay, why?
It gets worse.
Oh, no. Okay.
So after he had died, Gary he was like, oh, shoot, I killed somebody, so I'm going to cover it up. So he wrapped Reverend Freed's body in alcohol-soaked blankets and tried to burn it.
Inside that building?
Yes. And then he tried to burn down the rectory with a lit cigar on a stove.
And there wasn't even enough structural damage to have, like, the fire department come, or didn't go at all?
No, a lit cigar on a stove is actually not the best way to burn a building down.
No, they don't actually stay lit very well.
No, and it's a stove.
Right.
It's kind of flame resistant. Like, of all the places in a church to put something to start a fire.
Sorry. Serious moment.
A stove's just not the best one.
It's just not.
So that didn't work very well for him. Otherwise, people would have responded a whole lot earlier than 9 a.m.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly when the murder occurred, but we know he was on the property at about 2:30, because that's when police responded, and the body was found at 9. And we also know that at some point after 2:30, a guard saw him on the property as well and told him to leave. And there was witnesses around the area that saw him just stalking around the church for hours. Like, he had just hyper-fixated on this church.
Right at this time.
So they found him really quickly. They arrested him. They charged him. He went to trial. And the jury found him guilty after 4 days of deliberation. And defense attorneys, they didn't even go with like maybe it wasn't him. They were like, yep.
There's extenuating circumstances.
He killed him, but he was, they're trying to go for an insanity defense. They were trying to bring in information like his drug history. They were also focusing, like, so they brought in some testimony that the day before he killed the Reverend, he entered into his neighbor's home searching for his wife and daughters inside the microwave and the refrigerator, respectively.
Wow.
Jurors.
Not generally where people hang out?
No. I mean, no. I like to sometimes just stand in front of the refrigerator, but I don't crawl. I don't crawl inside of it. I haven't gotten that desperate during a hot summer yet.
Okay, so is there any link even between Eric, the Reverend Eric Freed, and Gary?
No,
is there a link
literally no connection whatsoever.
Okay. I mean, you were talking about that at the beginning, but he couldn't just I'm glad we didn't linger on it I'm still thinking about it. And that's horrible. That's a horrible way to go.
As far as we can tell, there was no reason why he hyperfixated on that church, why he broke in, why he decided. I mean, I'll get more into Reverend Freed in a little bit, but like typically when you break into a church, they're kind of nice about it. Like they're like, hey, how can we help you? Do you need help? Like, what can we do for you? It's not like they're brandishing a gun in your face like if you broke into my home, what my husband would do, versus if you broke into a church, what the reverend or priest does. Like, they're different responses, right?
Dramatically.
And at this point, like when he broke in, the reverend was just sleeping, right? There was no...
Right. And was the reverend the only one there then at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, I mean, that, aside from the guards patrolling the grounds.
Right, but they weren't inside. And on the guard schedule, did nobody see the broken window then when they walked the grounds?
No, not that I could find reported. And I don't know if it was just because it was dark. I mean, it's wintertime, right? So
right.
You're not going to have the best lighting. And if the guards, like, there was just one. I keep saying guards plural, but there was just the one, right? It's not like there's like a roving patrol around this church. It's just the one guy doing like night security.
Yeah.
You know, kind of keeping an eye out. Gary, as part of his defense, he said that he'd been hysterical, he'd had difficulty sleeping, he thought the world was going to come to an end. On the 30th, December 30th, so the day before New Year's Eve, he said that he snorted methamphetamine all day and into the night. The next day, he said he did more methamphetamine, and he and his wife, I should have mentioned he was married, drank 2 bottles of wine together.
Holy smokes.
I know he's got 2 kids, too. 2 little girls.
Okay. Oh. Like kids were like with them? Like living with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, dang.
I know, which makes me just super sad for the kids, too. Because the wife, I mean, dollars to donuts, she's doing methamphetamine with him. Yeah, you don't have like an open drug user living with somebody who's clean and sober for very long.
Right.
Those relationships tend to disintegrate. But that day, on the 31st, earlier in the day, Gary said that he had accosted a neighbor in his trailer park and accused him of hiding his wife and his kids because they had gone to a relative's house to celebrate the new year, but he says that they were hiding. Gary said, and this is where we get the first hint of maybe why he fixated on church. He said he made his neighbor repent in the name of Jesus, and he said, I thought I was an archangel, like I had power. It was really weird. So,
quote. Okay, that's Gary's quote.
That's Gary's quote. Okay. So, later on that same day is when he gets arrested for the public intoxication, his bizarre behavior. He probably was on drugs, right? Not on alcohol, or maybe both. And like I told you, he was combative. He had to end up going to the hospital. He was in the jail for about 8 hours. So on his account, what he says happened. So this is what he told that investigator I told you about that did the pre-sentence report. He said that he believed that a tidal wave was coming, so he had to get on top of a tall building, and he found the church. He said he was cold, and so he began knocking on doors, hoping somebody would let him in, but no one answered. So he said that he found an open door to a restroom off the courtyard, which doesn't really jive with the broken window. We'll get to that. He said he decided to go in, but first he had to grab a piece of old metal drainage pipe to draw an A on the ground in rust and paint chips as an angel sign that would protect him from evil spirits.
Was he religious in his younger life at all?
Not that I could find anything. Okay. I couldn't find one way or the other.
Okay.
But there was, at least tonight, a lot of religious...
But with this particular trip, it is very... Okay.
A lot of religious mania. So he said that after he used the bathroom, there was voices telling him that he couldn't leave because there were kids in danger and there was a preacher there molesting children and hurting kids. And so he went in there and looked for the children. He said he couldn't find any children from being hurt because there was nobody else in there.
Only there. Yeah.
And that he was walking through the rectory looking for somewhere to sleep because he still believed he was an archangel. And then he also found, at this point, the garden stake that he was holding as though it was a protective sword. He says that he wandered into a room, which happened to be Freed's bedroom, Reverend Freed's bedroom.
Right.
But he didn't see him there. He just sat down in a chair and tried to fall asleep, which makes no sense because if you wander into a bedroom to sleep, would you not try to sleep on the bed?
Absolutely. I mean, come on. If that's your goal, right? You're fixated, you have this religious mania about, so you're looking for a place to sleep. Hello, bed. Of course.
So he says that after 5 minutes, he noticed Freed in the bed, and somehow Freed just woke up and yelled at him to leave, and that's when he suffocated him. He says, I had my arm around his neck, he was in a headlock, and I choked him out, but I don't think he died. Then, according to his statement, he just realized he needed to leave. So he went looking for the car keys and found them by the door and tried to flee. But this doesn't match at all with what the evidence showed, right? The torture.
Yeah, but I mean, right.
The fact that he tried to burn the body. The fact that he tried to blow up the rectory. Nothing. His report, his version of events, his story of this is all that happened,
is he trying to like say that somebody else came but I mean, come on. If he's that high, how would accurately would he even remember any of that?
Yeah. And that's like, there's just his whole story of what he says he believes happened. Like, none of it matches up with the evidence. And he just wouldn't agree that the evidence was the evidence, right? Like,
right. And it kind of, and if you're that paranoid, like you got that paranoia, right? Then of course everybody's trying to frame you, right? And if he's already that, like, he has that all that happening with his mental health, then why wouldn't his brain tell him a sanitized version?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you do things that are so awful that your brain can't.
It's like denial.
Yeah, you can't cope with that, right? And so you're like, no, that can't be what happened. Here's what happened. Right. I mean, when his delusions, like he stole Reverend Freed's car to get away, and he was driving to his mom's house, which he was describing as a place of safety, and he said he had to stop and pee off of a bridge to cleanse himself of evil.
Oh, okay. All right.
Maybe that's how I should try and get my son to go to the potty.
Except for, I'm pretty sure he doesn't understand the concept.
I'd be like, hey, it's time to go potty. You need to cleanse yourself. Well, if I want to set him up for some real trauma later on in his life. I know, right? I'm like, I'm talking about religious mania. The power of Christ compels you. The power. Just Like Heaven. Great movie. Y'all should watch it.
It's fantastic.
Great, great film. So he was convicted. They brought more charges than just murder. They charged him with burglary, it's first-degree murder with special allegations of torture, which make it like worse. Unlawful driving and taking of a car, attempting to commit a crime of arson, and carjacking. And they found him guilty of all of those. Now, in a little bit of a weird twist, after he was found guilty, he withdrew his not guilty by reason of insanity, because he had pled not guilty by reason of insanity. And after he was found guilty, he withdrew that, which, like, I don't know why. It doesn't matter at that point. You've been found guilty, so withdrawing your plea doesn't do a whole lot for you.
Right.
But he did. I guess he just kind of resigned himself, but not really, because then he filed an appeal, which we're going to get to.
He does seem to be all over the place.
He is a little bit. So he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, which is the best you're going to get in California at this point, for Reverend Freed's murder. And then he was also sentenced to a second life term for torture, and then 12 years for the felonies of like carjacking, burglary, attempted arson. So like not getting out of prison.
Right.
So he filed an appeal on a legal question, of I thought it was interesting. You guys might not think it's interesting, but I'm going to tell you because I thought it was interesting.
Excellent. You go, girl.
So you all know about like Miranda rights, right? You have the right to an attorney. Anything you say will be used against you in a court of law. If you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you, that whole thing.
Yep.
It's a big deal.
Big deal.
So if you ask for an attorney,
they have to give you one.
Well, and they're supposed to stop questioning you.
Oh, yeah.
While they're waiting for an attorney to get there.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, now they can keep talking at you, but they can't ask you questions.
Okay. Good
but
to know.
The courts have made it like you have to be really specific. Basically, you have to say like, I want an attorney.
Yep, that sounds specific.
You can't be like, oh man, I wish I had an attorney. That's not asking for an attorney.
No.
Right.
That's like genie in the bottle stuff.
So in this case, he asked the police interviewer that was interrogating him, he asked, can I see a lawyer? And then he made statements after he asked that question.
Wait, so he asked, can I see a lawyer? And they're like, yeah, here's a picture of a lawyer right here. Like, they didn't have to do that. And then he kept talking. He kept making statements.
So they kept asking him questions.
Because he did not say, I want a lawyer.
So the argument, right, that his appeal attorneys are saying is they should have stopped the interview as soon as he made the request for a lawyer.
Yeah, but he didn't make a request for a lawyer.
Well, and what happened, right? So he said, can I have a lawyer? Which I think that would probably count as a request.
Yeah, but if he said, can I have a lawyer, that'd be different than can I see a lawyer?
Yeah, so sorry. Can I have a lawyer? Can I see a lawyer? They frame it both ways in the argument.
Okay,
But in the video, and there's video of this interrogation, so he says that the Detective Harpham, like starts standing up to leave, presumably to go get him a lawyer, and then like in the same breath, he just keeps talking. Gary keeps talking. He's like, "Can I have a lawyer?" Da 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 da. Like,
right.
There's no, and so the appellate court determined that it wasn't like he wasn't really asking for a lawyer. Like he was just, it was like a stream of consciousness. Like he just kept talking. Like he didn't give the detectives a chance to like go up and to get a lawyer and to be like, he was like, "Oh, can I have one? And also this and this and this and this."
Right.
They also tried to appeal his torture conviction because they are claiming that the evidence at the scene didn't show that he caused Reverend Freed extreme pain and suffering. But that just didn't
really
work.
Really.
Because the crushed windpipe, the vertebrae that were crushed in the course of his strangulation, his nearly severed tongue because of broken glass, and he also impaled his knee with the garden stake. So
okay. Yeah, so that wasn't going to fly. And also, folks, just for your information, like autopsy, like medical coroners can tell when impacts happen to the body before or after death.
They can.
They can.
And also, even if he had done it after he died, there's desecration of a corpse.
Mm-hmm.
So I just... neither one is good.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
So his conviction was affirmed on all counts, and his appeal was unsuccessful. He is still serving his life without the possibility of parole sentence.
Okay. Whew.
So I wanted to tell you guys about Reverend Freed, since he's the real MVP.
Dang.
He was super, super beloved. Like, everybody in the community really liked him. They said that they not only lost a pastor, they lost a friend, and for many of them, they lost a father figure. He had been a part of the diocese in that area since 1999.
Wow.
They said that he was an upbeat person who always saw the glass half full. It was never about him. It was always about you. He was a personal friend to many and a tremendous person in the community. He especially, he served a lot in the city's Japanese American community because he had lived in Japan for a few years before he moved to California.
Yeah, wow.
He had siblings that loved him. He had sisters that spoke at the sentencing for Gary when the judge sentenced him to life, talking about how, this took away their brother and somebody that was a really warm presence in their life. The chairman of Humboldt State University's Religious Studies Department that worked with him said that he was a really genuinely warm individual. Kind is the word that comes to mind, and sensitive.
Oh, man. Oh, my goodness.
He was well respected, well liked. He had a tremendous working knowledge as well as academic knowledge. He was not a stuffy clergyman. He was very much someone you could sit down and speak with. He connected with everybody. And just a couple of days before his murder, he had sent a note to all of his parishioners, thanking them for their support and wishing them a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Oh, now it's even worse, Bunny. Now it's even worse.
Yeah, but his story needed to be told.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But just the loss of that kind of a person in this world.
And for no reason.
Right.
Like, no reason. I mean, I guess you could say drugs. Drugs were the reason. But, like, it wasn't like he had wronged him. He knew him. He looked at him funny in the street. There was literally nothing connecting these two people together. Like, at all.
Okay. That is so tragic. So now I have questions for you.
Okay.
Number one. Could the jail be liable at all for releasing him?
No, They had no idea what he was going to do.
Yeah, I know.
And he had, they had taken him in on public intoxication.
Right.
Right. And they took him to the hospital. They got him checked out. And then when he left, he seemed not intoxicated enough that when police showed up at the church, they didn't think he was intoxicated.
Well, he'd gone way past that.
He had.
But I was just wondering about that because of the fact that he was like, did they know about that incident with the neighbor where he like forced his way into their house and forced them to repent in the name of Jesus? Like, and the fact that he was combative at all, none of that played into.
I'm guessing they didn't know about that till later because if the neighbor had called police and they'd responded to that, they would have taken him to jail on that.
Oh, okay.
And so the neighbor probably was like, dude, I mean, he knew him, right? I'm guessing this wasn't the first time a situation like this had occurred.
Right.
And he was not living in like an upstate part of town.
No. Well, I know.
And so his neighbor was probably like, just get out of my house, man. Right? Like, this is ridiculous. I don't think, from what I could tell, the police didn't know about that until after the fact when they were doing their investigation. Okay. What they knew is that he had been like shouting and there had been disturbances, and so they came and got him for public intoxication.
Right.
And took him in.
It just seems like a series of unfortunate events that at any point in time could be stopped.
Oh, and that's what's so hard, right? Because you have this guy who was in jail hours before he committed this murder. And if they had just decided to keep him overnight, which they didn't have to do, but which they could have done, like everything could have been so different.
Right, exactly. Or and maybe the neighbor didn't call 911 at the time because it was like they have a poor relationship with the police or authority figures, or it had happened often enough that it didn't seem like a big deal. You know, all those little things. If the system where they communicate between different police forces was faster, all those little things, right? Where it just feels like at any point in time, this derailed train could have gone back on the tracks.
And that's what's so hard. Like, not only do you have just a genuinely kind, good, loving, upstanding person who's murdered, but there are so many points along the story where you're like, it didn't have to happen. Oh, but it didn't have to happen. Like, he was in jail, and then there was a police officer that saw him, and then there was a security guard that saw him, right? Like, so many different, like, little chances for it to have gone a better direction.
Right. Or even if the security guard had noticed that the window lock was broken or something was amiss there, right?
Yeah, had gone sooner.
Yeah, exactly. Because he did sound like he thought he spent a lot of time wandering around before he even found the Reverend.
Although, I mean, to be fair, we have zero idea how accurate that is.
Right. And what the time in his mind and time reality is even happening. So what's up with, do you have any follow-up on his family at all?
His wife and children?
Yep. Yeah.
Gary's wife and children. Are trying to stay as out of the limelight as possible. His children were minors at the time. They're not now, but I'm not going to say their names because they were minors when this was occurring. And it's not their fault that their father murdered somebody. His wife got a divorce, and they have just sideways, just tried to live your lives as best you can when that's something you're connected to.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of our stories where I'm like, hey, Bonnie, what happened to the family? A lot of times you're like, well, they're trying to just like fly under the radar, living their own life.
What would you do, right? If dad tomorrow was like, I'm going to go murder somebody, like, it's not like you're going to publicize that as a feature of your life.
Well, no, I wouldn't. That'd be ridiculous. I don't want people to know that. But since I have a different last name and I live really far away, maybe I'll just say nothing.
Be like, oh, him? No, I don't know him.
No,
weird. That picture on my wall behind my head? No, that's a different. They just doppelgangers.
People were always like, hey, you look like that guy.
You look like that one murderer. So weird.
Crazy. Yeah, for reals though. Okay. I mean, absolutely. What are you going to do?
Yeah. So his daughters, as far as I could find, right, there isn't a ton about them, especially because they were minors at the time, but I hope they're doing okay.
Yeah, I hope they have loving people around them and a beautiful life.
Some counseling.
Yeah. Mom hopes they got some counseling.
I also hope that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a ton about Gary's wife, but given the activities they were engaging in together before Gary
Yeah.
murdered somebody, I'm willing to bet she probably didn't hustle them into counseling. But there's a chance the state got involved after that, and they would have gotten them into counseling.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, Bon. That was a ride.
I just feel so like, not that killing anybody is good, but like, you killed a great person for literally no reason.
No, I know, right? No, there's just no
Not like
reason.
he was like cheating on your wife with your wife was cheating on you with him, or like he owed you money, or like there's just nothing.
Well, and all the good he was doing in that community, all the people that he had helped out, it's so sad. That community will never be the same again. I mean, it'll take a long time for that community to be the same again.
Yeah. Yeah, you think about it now, it's only like a decade removed.
I know. I was just thinking about that. I was like, that is only like 12 years ago.
Yeah, it's one of the newest cases we've done. I think it might be the
Mhm.
newest case we've covered, actually.
I think so. Yeah.
And I will say, for people who say the wheels of justice run slowly, which they do, this one did not. He
Good.
was arrested within a few days of the murder and went to trial that same year. Like, everything happened in 2014. His appeal took a little bit longer, but no, that's just appeals.
And he hasn't like appealed or anything since then.
No, I have no idea if he'll take it up to the Supreme Court or not, the California State Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't yet, so I kind of doubt he will. It's been a few years since that appeal happened, and there are time frames that you have to bring it in, so.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah, that's the story of Reverend Eric Freed.
Oh, Reverend.
And his murderer.
Gary.
Nobody likes Garys. Sorry if there's any Garys listening. I'm sure you're great. I'm sure you're not murderers.
Lots of Garys are great. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Garys.
It is too bizarre.
Yeah. People are weird.
Yeah. And drugs make them weirder.
Hardcore.
Was he under the influence of anything at all at the time?
100%, Ma.
Well, I feel like he had to be because of what he did, but also he'd been in jail for the 8 hours beforehand, so it had to have left his system at least a little bit. But he could have gone and used immediately after he got out. I don't know what happened in that small window of time.
They did a blood test, right? Though I remember you saying that they did a blood test. They didn't do a blood test.
That was before on the public intoxication.
Yeah, that's right. It was too far. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Then how much has his brain chemistry already been altered because of his lifestyle choices?
Yeah, and he stated that he had a diagnosis of bipolar, which is also going to have that.
How fast does meth leave the body if you've had a gram of it?
It depends on how much of it you have, what you've had to eat, how regularly you use it.
Well, he was using it pretty regularly that day.
It takes a while. It has a longer half-life than alcohol does.
And he was using that too.
He had to check that drugs and alcohol don't usually mix very well. Especially methamphetamine and wine, because one's an upper and one's a downer.
That's a lot of communication, miscommunication that can happen within yourself.
Yeah. So.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So the lesson I learned is don't do drugs.
That's a good lesson to learn.
Also,
everybody should take that takeaway. No drugs.
Yeah. Also, lock your doors.
And maybe get shatterproof windows.
Right? Or a dog. Small, yippy one that'll warn you, like an alarm bell, like rattling cans, but louder.
But also maybe a big one that seems more threatening than a small, yippy one.
Yeah, but I think it's harder to catch a small one.
That's true. They just weave between your legs.
Like,
Serpentine.
Yeah, serpentine.
Also, I just want to have this like moment to just let anybody who's listening know that if you're on the fence about like if you should get some medical testing done and check out the levels of your health, you should do it. Because I just did that and my health wasn't nearly as good as I thought it was. So if you're like, man, I don't know, maybe I should go see a doctor. Go see a doctor.
Right. Absolutely. And if you're on the verge, like, well, I don't know, maybe my thinking patterns aren't that great. Maybe I should go get some help. Then definitely do that too. Anytime you think you should get some help,
Get some help. Well, the problem is people whose thinking patterns aren't that great don't get to that point in their thinking that they should get help.
Yeah, that is often the problem.
That is a catch-88 right there, which is 4 times as bad as catch-22.
I'll keep that in mind.
So it's a big deal.
Also, if you're on the fence about if you should rearrange your living room, you should do it. We did that today, and it feels way better.
Okay, send me a picture of the living room.
We moved the couch back, so it just looks way more open. I'll FaceTime you after we're done.
Okay, wonderful.
That's what I was gonna have more time to like do stuff and prepare other stuff, and then Shane was like, "Should we rearrange the living room today?" And I was like, "I'm open. What are you thinking?"
Oh, tell me more about this.
And then we did that all afternoon.
That sounds awesome.
It looks like 4 times the size. 88 times the size, if you will.
Okay, so don't do drugs. Rearrange your living room. If you feel like you need help, get it.
Go see a doctor of some kind.
Whatever, for whatever reason. Right? And then we talked about something awesome earlier, and you should definitely do that too. Oh, yeah.
No Taste Like Home.
No Taste Like Home. That's it, right.
Watch it. Watch it while you're rearranging your living room.
Oh, that's a win-win right there.
And call your doctor.
And you have a cup of warm beverage nearby.
Oh, that's the way to do it.
Okay. We have just basically solved
world hunger.
The world's problems. Yes.
Nothing exists in the world that can't be made better by a rearranged living room and a nice warm beverage.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Unless you've already achieved peak perfection in your living room, in which case, congratulations.
Just enjoy a warm rum toddy, and then you're into drugs again. So forget that.
Yeah, just with a regular warm beverage. That might be a regular warm beverage for some people.
Just get some warm milk if all else fails.
Warm milk.
It's pretty safe.
All right. Excellent.
Well, awesome. Thanks for joining us, Mom. Thanks for guest hosting with us.
It was fun.
And until next time, keep your tea hot and your curiosity hotter.
Bye, everyone.